Regional rivals tussle in cyberspace, and governments have it out with dissidents and the opposition. Market penetration as an instrument of state power. TikTok gets more unwelcome scrutiny over its privacy practices. Joe Carrigan on a credential harvesting phishing scheme using Zoom as bait. Our guest is Avi Shua from Orca Security on accidental vulnerabilities. And suppressing creepware is apparently harder than it looks. And now, a word from our sponsor, Observit. With a distributed workforce becoming the new norm, many organizations are forced to learn how to manage mission-critical functions remotely, which brings a unique set of insider threat challenges to the fore. Whether it's careless users, disgruntled employees, or third-party contractors, insiders have access to sensitive data on networks that are likely less secure, introducing new risks to your business. To protect against these new threats, Proofpoint's Observit Insider Threat Management solution empowers security teams to identify user risk, protect from data exfiltration, and accelerate incident response, so you can better protect your organization from insider risk. Get your free trial at observit.com/cyberwire. That's observit.com/cyberwire. And we thank Observit for sponsoring our show. Funding for this CyberWire podcast is made possible in part by LastPass. LastPass is an award-winning security solution that helps millions of individuals in over 70,000 organizations navigate their online lives easily and securely. Businesses can maximize productivity while still maintaining effortless, strong security with LastPass. LastPass can minimize risk and give your IT team a breakthrough integrated single sign-on, password management, and multi-factor authentication solution. From the CyberWire studios at Data Tribe, I'm Dave Bittner with your CyberWire summary for Wednesday, August 12, 2020. Various accusations of cyber attack have been emerging from regional and domestic rivals. Shutting down the internet is the 21st century analog of the 20th century's seizure of the radio stations and the phone exchange, the 19th century's occupation of the newspaper and telegraph offices. That's what appears to be going on in Belarus, where internet disruptions that began at the end of the country's presidential election continue. Belarus has taken the official view that its internet outage is the work of ill-intentioned foreign operators. But as Medusa says, domestic dissidents claim, and most observers are with them on this, that it's the work of Minsk itself. The opposition had predicted, as voting began, that the government would clamp down on the internet, and that's what appears to have happened. The country's top-level domain, .by, was also rendered largely inaccessible to people outside Belarus. The Guardian sees it as a high-stakes gamble aimed at disrupting the ability of protesters to organize. Most such communication has moved to Telegram, which offers a degree of anonymity, is hosted where Minsk's writ doesn't run, and which has shown itself relatively resistant to being taken down. Much of Belarus is effectively incommunicado, with some telephone service also reporting disruption. The internet blocking has been run through Beltelecom, the national telco, and the Belarusian National Traffic Exchange Center. One probable unintended consequence of the shutdown is that the remaining channels tend to be particularly susceptible to rumor, misdirection, and speculation. In many social channels, the clock is always striking 13, the Martians have landed, and the man is out to get you. Sometimes that's even true. The Martians eventually get through, at least in our editor's experience. But if President Lukashenko doesn't like that result, he might usefully consult the man in the mirror. The News International edition and other outlets report that Pakistan's army assesses recent incidents on soldiers' mobile devices as representing cyber attacks from inveterate adversary India. Pakistan's Inter-Services Public Relations Organization, the ultimate source of news about the attribution, accused Indian intelligence services of a range of cybercrimes including deceitful fabrication by hacking personal mobiles and technical gadgets. The Pakistan military's media relations arm added ambiguously that various targets of hostile intelligence agencies are being investigated. Pakistan Army has further enhanced necessary measures to thwart such activities, including action against violators of standing operating procedures on cybersecurity." End quote. Other government departments are also being told to go to a higher level of alert with respect to cybersecurity, and especially to look for security lapses. Deceitful fabrication suggests either social engineering or disinformation, but the statement awaits clarification. Pakistan has grown increasingly skittish about WhatsApp since WhatsApp had been found susceptible to Pegasus spyware infestations, and there's much discussion of foregoing the use of WhatsApp in stories covering Pakistan's warning. The National Council of Resistance of Iran, whose English language service represents the Iranian opposition to much of the rest of the world, has accused Tehran of attempting to take down the website of the opposition's People's Mojahedin Organization of Iran. The National Council of Resistance says the attempt, while desperate, and here one must make allowances for partisan hype, was unsuccessful. Researchers at Orca Security have been investigating what they describe as an all-too-common mistake of leaving an organization vulnerable to attacks by accidentally exposing it through allow-listing external CI/CD servers. CI/CD stands for Continuous Integration and Continuous Delivery, by the way. Avi Shua is CEO and co-founder at Orca Security, and he shares these insights.
At the end of the day, these days everyone loves to use SaaS. You integrate external CI/CD services, you may be using any other external services as part of your internal processes, and you need to open them to intimately integrate it into your environment. If you think about that, if you use a service like Bitbucket or GitHub or any one of these services, it's essentially outsourcing or putting in an external service something which is pretty intimate part of your development process. And as such, it's need to communicate with your internal processes. So naturally, you need to open it. And the way that you open it is many times done by simply opening a role allowing access from these external services to your internal services. And you might notice that it means that you opened an internal service to the world. And this seems right. At the end of the day, these are reputable services, and you don't expect GitHub or Atlassian to attack you.
So what happens next if someone makes this configuration error? What specifically is the problem here? How are they opening themselves up?
So it might seem like a valid configuration. You open a hole in your policy to allow these external services to communicate with your internal servers that might not be secure to the same extent as you'd want, but you're opening it only for these reputable companies that are certainly not going to attack you. So it seems fine. But what usually the practitioner don't understand is that when you open it to these services, it's not like you're only opening it to the employees of Bitbucket or to the employees of GitHub. You are in fact opening it to any of these company customers.
But the folks that you work with, when you're describing these sorts of things to put into place, what are some of the reasons that they give to you why they haven't used such a system so far?
My main suggestion is that any organization that works in the cloud these days must make sure that you have the tools and processes to understand the security posture of his environment across the technology stack. There will be mistakes, there will be misconfiguration because people do mistakes, and they can be both in the application and the configuration and might involve different parts of them. And you must make sure that you have the tools and processes to detect them and handle them. And don't assume that it can be fixed only by training, or people make mistakes and security program must assume that they will continue to make mistakes, and we need to be able to fix it and find them as fast as possible.
That's Avi Shua from Orca Security. The Wall Street Journal reports that TikTok had, until last November, collected MAC addresses in an undisclosed user tracking program, a technique that appears to violate Google's rules on how apps may collect user data. TikTok told the Journal that it remains committed to protecting the privacy and safety of the TikTok community. Like our peers, we constantly update our app to keep up with evolving security challenges. The company added that the current version of TikTok does not collect MAC addresses. In an unrelated development, Reuters says that TikTok's proposed move of data centers from the U.S. to a presumably friendlier Europe may have also hit a snag, as French regulators, the CNIL, acknowledge that they have an open investigation into the service's privacy safeguards. A CNIL spokesman told Reuters, quote, "The CNIL began investigations into the TikTok.com website and the TikTok application in May 2020. The CNIL had indeed received a complaint at that date. To date, the CNIL continues its investigations and participates in ongoing European work." End quote. And finally, yesterday was the deadline Google gave stalkerware vendors to stop advertising on the Mountain View marketing giant's search platform. But TechCrunch finds that a number of such apps, designed to give you the ability to snoop on someone's device usage without their knowledge or consent, are still present with ads. It's a tough problem, tougher than it would appear. Few people in the civilized world would want to empower stalkers and domestic abusers to keep track of their fixation's digital exhaust. It's creepy, sure, but it's also dangerous. Having said that, there are plenty of parents who want to have some insight into what their minor children are doing online, and that's far more defensible. Google sought to carve out an exception to its rules to accommodate what we might call in loco parentis software, but that's tough to do. Cyberspace is more dual use than just about anywhere else, and the tool that might help keep your child from using your credit card to buy skater gear can, alas, be repurposed as creepware. And now, a word from our sponsor, ThreatConnect. Designed by analysts but built for the entire team, ThreatConnect's intelligence-driven security operations platform is the only solution available today with intelligence, automation, analytics, and workflows in a single platform. Every day, organizations worldwide use ThreatConnect as the center of their security operations to detect, respond, remediate, and automate. With all of your knowledge in one place, enhanced by intelligence, enriched with analytics, driven by workflows, you'll dramatically improve the effectiveness of every member of the team. Want to learn more? Check out their newest ebook, SOAR Platforms. Everything you need to know about security, orchestration, automation, and response. The book talks about intelligence-driven orchestration, decreasing time to response and remediation with SOAR, and ends with a checklist for a complete SOAR solution. Download it at threatconnect.com/cyberwire. That's threatconnect.com/cyberwire. And we thank ThreatConnect for sponsoring our show. And joining me once again is Joe Carrigan. He is from the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute and also my co-host over on the Hacking Humans podcast. Hello, Joe.
Hi, Dave.
Interesting report came from the folks over at Inky. They are an email security company. They do a lot of work protecting people against phishing and those sorts of things. And this article is called Zoom and Doom. How Inky unraveled a credential harvesting phishing scam. There's some interesting stuff in this report here, Joe. You want to unpack it for us?
Yeah, so it starts off talking about Zoom, the teleconferencing company. This is an absolutely amazing statistic that in December of last year, they had 10 million daily participants in meetings. Now they have 300 million in April of this year. Yeah. Okay, and that's because, of course, we're all working from home, right? I mean, I attend Zoom meetings several times a week. This is not really surprising, but I mean, that's a remarkable level of growth. And actually, this phishing scam doesn't actually exploit anything in Zoom. There's nothing in that Zoom can do about this. It's just these attackers are using Zoom as a hook for a phishing email. And they might be sending an email from a compromised Zoom account, but a lot of times they're not. They're just sending it from a fake domain like zoomcommunications.com or zoomvideoconference.com. These attackers have registered these domains. And I think these domains, I think Zoom has a good cyber squatting case here. They can probably get control of those domains. They're actually using the company name Zoom and what they do, communications or video conferencing, in the URL. So I think Zoom should go after these domains and try to just get them, and then gain control and redirect to their stuff. That's my advice to them if I was consulting them, which I'm not. So I'm just giving free security consulting services to Zoom here. But anyway, what these phishing emails are doing is they're actually trying to harvest credentials for Microsoft Office 365 users. So you click on the link and it takes you to a page impersonating a Microsoft login.
So it's saying you've been invited to a Zoom meeting.
Right.
You click on the link and it takes you to an Office or an Outlook, whatever, something in the Microsoft suite.
Yeah.
To log in for that.
Which to me would be a red flag, but I'm not really steeped in the cloud computing or cloud environment.
Yeah.
It's something that could kind of make sense. I mean, I remember years ago, I would be trying to navigate a network and I'd have to go to some other place and it'd say, you have to log in. And I said, I thought I already logged in. And I'd make sure that I was going to the right place and it would work. It would log in and I'd get there.
Right.
But so I imagine that there's some kind of thing going on here psychologically with people where they're going, oh, well, since we use Microsoft, maybe I have to go into my Microsoft account to access my Zoom. To access a Zoom meeting. It kind of makes sense. I mean, it's not right thinking, but this stuff is a lot of smoke and mirrors and a black art to just about everybody who is not living day to day in the technical world.
How often do these cloud services just sort of pop up and say, hey, you need to re-log in?
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
As well.
Something's happened and you need to log in. And most of us think, all right, well, it's, a little bit of a nuisance, not a big deal. You put in your credentials and away you go.
Yeah, and a lot of times that can happen if your IP address changes, right?
Right. And so I think this is taking advantage of that, how routine that has become that we don't really think twice about it. When one of these things pops up, we think, oh, all right, well, I want to get my work done. Better log in again. Right.
So you just go ahead and do it, right? And that's what happens. A couple of interesting things about this campaign. One is that some of these emails have an attachment, and when you click on the attachment, what that actually loads up is the malicious web page, but the malicious web page is hosted on your computer. So these attachments are actually composed of HTML, JavaScript, and PHP that's obfuscated, so it's unreadable to humans. You couldn't read it, and also a lot of automated security tools can't read it as well. So it's a clever way to evade URL reputation checkers, because this does not involve checking a URL. You're opening a local file. Then on the back end, I imagine that there's probably some JavaScript when you click submit that just opens another web connection out to a site and just sends that across in some JSON packet or something, right? So these credentials are then just exfiltrated.
Yeah, and these, as we've talked about before, we talk about this all the time on Hacking Humans, how legit these login pages look, because they're actually just scooping up the HTML code from the real site. Right,
yeah, HTML is, all of the web is just text-based, right? All the code, there's no compilation of a web page. It's a text file that gets sent down to me and rendered in my browser. Along with other text files like JavaScript and CSS, but they're all still text files. They're not binaries. So there is no way to stop somebody from having complete access to all of the source code for your web page. You can't do it unless you don't want to display your web page to them.
Right. All right. Well, it's an interesting look into this particular phishing campaign, taking advantage of that popularity of Zoom. And I suppose the lesson here is look twice, think twice before you just reflexively log into some of these cloud services.
Yeah, that's the lesson. Also, another lesson, whenever you have cloud services, multi-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication. These credentials will not do an attacker any good if you have a good multi-factor authentication solution implemented.
Yeah. All right. Well, Joe Carrigan, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Dave.
And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. And for professionals and cybersecurity leaders who want to stay abreast of this rapidly evolving field, sign up for CyberWire Pro. It'll save you time and keep you informed. Listen for us on your Alexa smart speaker, too. Thanks to all of our sponsors for making the CyberWire possible, especially our supporting sponsor, Proofpoint's Observit, the leading people-centric insider threat management solution. Learn more at observit.com. The CyberWire podcast is proudly produced in Maryland out of the startup studios of Data Tribe, where they're co-building the next generation of cybersecurity teams and technologies. Our amazing CyberWire team is Elliot Peltzman, Peru Prakash, Stefan Vaziri, Kelsey Bond, Tim Nodar, Joe Carrigan, Carol Terrio, Ben Yellen, Nick Valecki, Gina Johnson, Bennett Moe, Chris Russell, John Petrick, Jennifer Iben, Rick Howard, Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We will see you back here tomorrow.